Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Good day, everyone. We are here again, but this time we are in extreme close-up mode.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, my friend.
We are very zoomed in today.
Today I'm just talking on my own. Not really. It seemed like that for a split second, but yeah. Welcome to Pandoras Box, everyone. Whether you're listening to us on AW Radio or on Spotify or YouTube or however, we appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in.
Or on the new
today.
syndicated show on Deal Radio.
Oh yeah, and on Deal Radio, baby. Thanks, Drew. Good save, man. Good save. We are on so many platforms now. We appreciate every single one.
Everywhere.
It's hard to keep track for my fragile little mind. But yeah, I hope you've had a good week, everyone. I got some really cool facts for everyone this week.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just going to get right into some fascinating facts that will change your lives, dazzle your loved ones with your newfound trivia. So let's get into it. Ice, baby.
Oh, baby.
Did you know that craving ice is a symptom of anemia? Obviously, anemia is basically having an iron deficiency for some reason.
Is that when you go really white?
Yeah, I think it's
It looks anemic.
It's a symptom of it, isn't it? I think. Yeah, but very low iron in your blood for whatever reason.
I thought I had anemia once.
Yeah,
I'm very cold. I'm quite a cold being.
Cold-hearted.
Cold-hearted, cold as ice. Some would say.
Cold young man.
Yeah, I can remember like all summer. I could probably wear a hoodie now and like I'd be fine.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm literally sat here sweating.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not even doing anything. I'm just sweating, just from sheer heat.
I am the medium.
You are Iron Man.
I am the medium. I did regret wearing a shirt today, though. I will say that, a long sleeve, because it's pretty hot today.
Yeah, yours looks more like a wintry one. This is quite nice. This is quite thin and breezy. Get the chest
I like
hair
a thin and breezy shirt.
I think in some ways a shirt like this is actually cooler than wearing a t-shirt. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of
a loose fabric one.
Updraft, and there's these little bits in between.
Yeah.
Get a little bit of draft.
Got the vents in.
Got the vents in there,
Ventilation pockets, I'm going to call them.
Nice ventilation
system.
pockets you got there.
Ventilation system initiated. But yeah, sorry, go on what you're saying. You thought you were anemic.
Yeah, just thought I've never tested or anything.
Turned out you're just a skinny young lad.
That could be the case.
Yeah.
Most sources are saying that probably is the case. But
I mean, I think part of it is probably that. I mean, probably, let's face it, one of the reasons probably I am hotter than you is because we're a similar height, but I'm, about 5 stone heavier than you?
Probably,
and I'm also covered in a layer of hair, which your bold little body does not have. So, I mean, it makes sense.
The bald eagle.
Do you know what I mean? An extra 5 stone of meat, of muscle and fat, and then just covered that in hair as well. And do you know what I mean? It's no wonder I'm a lot hotter than Bullwinkle, really, you know?
Yeah, I find it mad that we can regulate our body temperature by sweating and stuff, but dogs just don't. They just pant.
Yeah. What? Moose as well can't do that.
Yeah, they can't sweat. So they.
I didn't know
really
that about dogs. I knew that about moose.
Yeah, and literally, they're covered in fur, obviously, and their skin can't sweat, so they pant, and that's why they pant so much.
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it?
Blowing all the hot air out of the system.
You'd think that they would suffer more than they do. Because obviously, even in like hot countries, you still have dogs. They must be suffering, man. Because I remember hearing about the moose. It's one of the reasons why you don't find them in countries other than northern Russia, northern Scandinavia, and northern Canada. Because they physically have never evolved the ability to sweat. Obviously, it can become really dangerous to not be able to sweat. So that's mad. I guess that's one of the reasons why as well. Probably things like, people rightfully so get like livid if somebody like leaves their dog in the car in like summer.
Yeah,
if you can't sweat, I mean, think about how horrible it would be as a human. We can sweat.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're a dog and like, what's going on inside your body?
You got to really watch it. Even us in the caravan at the moment, like it gets, as soon as the sun starts blasting on it gets really hot in there, and you got to leave all the doors and the windows open and stuff. So we won't leave Rupert in there if we know it's a really hot day or something. You just have to shut the gate to the garden and leave the doors wide open in the caravan so we can like run around and then like
dog
go
heaven.
Loving it. But the gate's just broke though as well, so it's annoying. It's a bit like, what do you do? Please don't run away, but we kind of got to leave you out here anyway.
Feels like
platypuses sweat milk.
They sweat milk.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I sweat milk.
Yeah, that sounds quite refreshing.
I'd lick myself.
Isn't it weird when like you've been out on a night out and like got
you start licking yourself?
Kind of on a similar thing, like where you said about this, so I know that you know about this. When you go to the gym the next day and you just sweat out the beer,
100%.
and you can smell the beer, or like if you've had a real big smoke or something, and you can almost like smell that coming out of the marijuana.
Smell the marijuana. Yeah, that's so weird, isn't it? That you can like smell whatever you've been ingesting. I mean, I guess
it is just part of your body.
I mean, it does sort of make sense in a way, I guess. You're like, it's going somewhere.
Yeah.
If you're taking it into your body, it's going somewhere, you know? And I guess it's like, sweat's a little bit like urine, I guess, isn't it? It's like your body
sweats a little bit like urine.
Sweats a bit like urine, I guess. Like your body's obviously like going to keep the stuff that it really like wants or needs from whatever you're ingesting.
Yeah.
But the stuff you're like weeing and sweating out is like the rubbish. It doesn't
I wonder
want.
why sweat's salty as well. You got a lot of sodium in it.
Well, that's one of the reasons why obviously sports drinks have electrolytes in it, because you sweat out sodium.
Yeah.
Sodium is obviously an electrolyte. Sodium, I mean, salt gets a really bad rap, and obviously because things like table salt is really bad. But
I love sea
pure
salt.
salt is very good.
Cornish sea salt or
Himalayan salt.
Yeah,
I always go for the Himalayan personally, but
that's why I really like.
I don't
sea
think
salt.
it's necessarily better than pure sea salt.
Because it's got a lot of minerals in it and stuff, isn't it? Like both of them have
electrolytes. Yeah, that's what you want it for. It's like great for electrolytes. Yeah.
Isn't it really good to get if you? I read somewhere that if you have like a tablespoon, or not, maybe not a tablespoon. That sounds like a lot.
That's quite extreme.
A teaspoon of like salt, then it gives you like a really big pump if you have it like before or after gym.
One of the things that sodium does is control muscle function. So it's also one of the reasons why, like after you work out, say for me, I usually work out before dinner. With my dinner, I always will put quite a generous serving of Himalayan salt on my food, and it's because obviously I'm trying to replenish my sodium, especially because I'm a sweater, as we've already ascertained.
There's electrolytes in there.
Yeah, and what I mean by that, as a sweater, like obviously, just genetically, certain people will sweat more than others.
Yeah, that's also very strange.
So some people, even when they work out hard, they will have like a mild sweat. Other people, like myself, and you'll see videos of
I'm a mild sweater.
Like with me, there was like, you know, if I'm doing like dips and I'm like 3/4 of the way through my workout, there's beads of sweat dripping from my head, and I can see it like splashing off the floor. You know,
like Willie, whenever we play a gig in the band as well, like I'd always come off and just have maybe a little bit of wet on my t-shirt or something. And he is literally like sodden, like he's just been on a waterfall, like under a waterfall.
That's Willie's solo metal project, Sodden.
Mate, good name for a metal project.
Robbins is Sodden.
Every night of the week, bar.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's just true though, isn't it? And it's like it's just one of those things about people. But I think the more you do sweat, apparently it's one of those things. Apparently, if you do genetically sweat a lot, it's actually quite efficient for the same reason we were saying it's not good for dogs not to sweat, or moose,
because it like clears the toxins out of your body as well.
It's actually quite efficient. But it does mean that you're then going to have to make a bit more of an effort then to replenish your electrolytes. So so just keep in mind, obviously, you need your calcium, you need your potassium, you need your sodium. It's easy to get these things in, especially if you're like if you eat an omnivorous diet. Obviously, things like any dairy product will have a ridiculous amount of calcium in. Obviously, things like bananas, but also oranges and things like baked potatoes, white potatoes have a lot of potassium in. Obviously, good quality salt will have lots of sodium in. So, it's very easy to get them back, but you just have to be mindful of it. You need to make sure that you're doing things to get them back in. If you are working out all the time, or you're doing things that make you sweat a lot. But it's interesting how we managed to go on a good sort of
tangent,
6-minute tangent. Then I didn't even finish my my fact.
Sorry, man.
No, it's good. That's why one of the things I enjoy most about the pod is when we have these organic,
free flowing,
spontaneous,
orgasmic.
Yeah, because we covered dogs and moose sweating there.
Yeah,
we covered freaking electrolytes.
Yeah,
and like loads of other stuff.
Gotta go where the mood takes you.
Yeah. About how you sweat out what you've been ingesting the day before. Anyway, so yeah, craving ice is a symptom of anemia. People suffering from an iron deficiency often find themselves compulsively eating ice, a practice called pagophagia, which can cool off inflammation in the mouth, which is brought on by the condition. Isn't that interesting? So, if you find yourself craving ice too much, Bullwinkle, maybe look into it. Go get yourself
Yeah, I can't say I crave ice, but my throat is usually quite inflamed. So maybe that is a sign. Maybe I should be craving ice. Who knows?
I've heard like women crave ice when they're pregnant. Like sometimes like they'll like chew on ice and stuff.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that as well before, but I can't remember why.
Like ice chips.
Yeah. This is an interesting fact. And it's something that sort of, when you think about it, you realise, I never really thought about why that word is associated with tomatoes before, because it doesn't really make sense. But did you know that ketchup, the word ketchup, originally had nothing to do with tomato sauce? Obviously now, everyone says ketchup, you immediately know what someone's on about. They're talking about tomato sauce. But if you think about it, what does the word ketchup mean? And why do we call tomato sauce ketchup? So, ketchup originally was a Chinese word which had nothing to do with tomato sauce. Ketchup originated in China as a boiled down brine of pickled fish.
Whoa.
In China, you would pronounce it more kitiasp.
Kitiasp.
Early Western ketchups were made with mushrooms, oysters, and walnuts. So they didn't have tomato juice in at all.
What? In the Lord's
name.
So
the original ketchup, once it was, brought over to the West from China, had, mushroom, oysters, and walnuts. It was a mushroom, oyster, and walnut sauce, which sounds a bit weird.
Yeah, it sounds a bit mental.
So that would probably be quite good for you. Do you know what I mean? Quite a lot of superfoods in there. But, it was a while before tomato juice was introduced as the main ingredient. And nowadays, it's all it is.
Yeah.
So ketchup was like a version of that boiled down brine thing.
Yeah, so ketchup was from China, and it was a brine of pickled fish, which is about as far away from tomato sauce as you can get.
Yeah.
Weird, isn't it?
Can I get some pickled fish on that?
That's really weird, isn't it?
On my chips.
That's really weird, isn't it? The next fact I find a bit mental, and it sort of made me laugh in a way, and I genuinely think that I don't suffer from this at all and never would. But I think it's interesting that some guys would. And this is all to do with arousal and how complicated your relationships with both your friends and your partner can be. And it basically goes on from a meta-analysis that was performed by the University of Chicago and Cornell. And they found that when a woman forms strong friendships with her partner's male friends, her partner is much more likely then to suffer from erectile dysfunction in the bedroom. Isn't that weird? I found that super weird. Drew's smiling like weird. That happens to me.
Definitely happened to me before in the past.
But to me, that makes like no sense. Like, why? Like, say like to me, I'd be like happy if my mates, if my closest guy mates got on really well with my partner. To me, I'm like, okay, well that just makes it easy because I don't want to have to like always separate the two.
Yeah.
Is it something to do with like?
To me, it seems clear that it's almost something to do with like some insecurity.
Yeah, or like a threat of taking your mate.
That's clearly what it is, isn't it? It's this feeling that.
But maybe a subconscious one or something.
Yeah, like because you might not even realize it's happening. But it's like, to me, it seems really weird that like that would happen. So yeah, if you're like Mrs. got friends with your male friends organically from spending time around you guys, and then imagine then like for some reason you can't explain it, but you go have some romantic time with your partner and you just can't get it up. Like, to me, that's really weird. Surely it would be more beneficial from an evolutionary point of view to have the biggest rod on you've ever had in your life. To show her, no, I'm the one you should want to be with.
Yeah.
You know?
Then I think it's a it would cause stress in you to have to do that. Do you know what I mean? So that's probably why. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Like,
I wasn't like shaking my head then, like as in like no. I was just thinking more like the reason I was shaking my head was because my subconscious shook my head was because I was thinking the act of lovemaking in itself is so relaxing and so pleasurable.
If you can relax,
that I wouldn't find that stressful.
I think it's when from a man of experience. It's not anymore. I'd just like to say to all those, but it's something that's happened to me in the past. Not proud of it. Caused me a lot of stress. But you know,
I think it
it's been one of those weird things. But I think for me, it's that it's not being it. Like when you're relaxed, of course. Like when you can be 100% relaxed, that's only when anything can happen. But if you're not and you're thinking about stuff, or like there's like subconscious threats about your relationship that or I don't know, whatever, or you're just like not confident, or you're overthinking it, or something like that. That's just like puts the gates down on it, rather than being able 100%. To just like relax enough 100%. To completely enjoy the experience and be with someone that you can feel relaxed enough to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, but when you can, it's like literally like no issues at all. Like that's it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. Once a problem is created, it is a problem.
Yeah.
Even if there was no problem in the first place.
You think you got to smash a wall down. It's like you're hammering on that wall, and it's like the bricks are just like.
Oh yeah, it's mad. Know. It's mad how that can happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's mad how that can happen. And then how, pretty much anything in life.
And then when it's not a problem, how much is just like not
a problem.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But if it's there and you've got the idea that it's going to be there, that's almost a problem in itself, and it just like exacerbates it rather than just like
and you can like
the idea of the problem. Is
the idea of the problem exactly
than the actual problem itself.
Well, that's why like obviously a lot of very very wise philosophers have said basically why there is no need ever to like worry about anything because it's like
but when you do,
either something is in your control or it's not. Either way. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's like,
like you say, that is what so many people say, isn't it? The thought of something going wrong is so much worse than the actual action of something going wrong that you've been worrying about.
I can't remember which philosopher it was saying, but it wasn't like a direct quote, but he was basically talking about why people develop anxiety and worry about things and things. And it was basically saying it's whenever people start to think too much about themselves rather than just living life, you know. So you start thinking, and that's when you start having existential crises, left, right, and centre. So you know, people start develop, and it's fairly common. People develop real chronic fears of death or of
that stifle you in the moment.
But it's because you're thinking too much about yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's really interesting.
What's going to happen to you?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's really interesting with like worry, fear, and anxiety, how they're all like wrapped up in the same thing for me. And I always thought fear was just something that you have, but it's a reaction that you have. Like fear is a reaction to something, and it's actually created within you by you. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? And like I heard someone talking about it, and they were saying about turning fear down and then turning fear off. And I'm like, I'm so intrigued by that, because I think like I've been a person that like when fear creeps up, it's all to do with the same thing. It's all like fear, anxiety, like when they arise, they stop you because you're being too self-analytical and everything, rather than just like allowing the moment, allowing whatever to happen. And it's amazing to think that that's not something that's outside of you. That's something that's created by you that you can actually control in a way, or let go of, or just like turn down.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that you can switch off like a switch. But I think these are things that like build momentum. So I think if you let these things build momentum, let this sort of negativity, so to speak, build momentum, by the time you're aware of it, then you have to almost like, to put it in like a physical analogy, it's a moving train. You have to find a way to get that train to a halt, and then get to go the other way until you're back to baseline
on a different
again.
track.
I think the steps,
but it can be done.
I think the steps and gadgets and stuff like that you can take that will bit by bit break that wave down a little bit, to the point where it's not something you have to deal with in your daily life. Yeah. I think that is the thing with anxiety, is that it comes in waves. And if I think back of like times that would have been like maybe the best times I would think in my life, they would have all almost been times where if I think back to it, I would have not been anxious about anything. I would have just been living my life, doing my thing, and just enjoying the moment. Whereas there's definitely been times as well where sort of through my life, I'll just be like anxious about stuff for no reason. But then, like we're saying, it's the problem that you create yourself that actually becomes bigger than a problem could even be there anyway.
Yeah. It's funny, it's like it is created in yourself. Like those anxious things.
And that's what I've got a couple of friends that suffer quite badly from anxiety and stuff like that, and obviously I have like quite in-depth talks with them sometimes, and obviously try and do my best as a friend to obviously help them, but I say to them, and there's different ways you can go about it, isn't there? Sometimes you have serious in-depth chats, and sometimes you just almost like more like jest. I think that you almost have to like whatever feels appropriate for the situation, because what you obviously don't want to do is accidentally put that person down, or make them feel bad about the fact that they feel like that. which sometimes, you have to be careful, because I think sometimes it's good to almost like make light of a subject because maybe it makes them realise, oh yeah, this is quite silly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you have to be very careful. I think you have to be, read the room. You have to know when to do that. But like, when I talk to them about it, I really do try and make them realise it's like, look, the only thing, like it's almost like that. The only thing to fear is fear itself thing. It's like all of these issues that you think you have aren't really issues.
No.
Yeah.
Like that's what you need to understand.
But when you're stuck in them, they feel so real.
Yeah.
It's like when you've experienced both, it's just so crazy how it's not an issue when you're not experiencing it. But when you do, it is like all encompassing. And it's like, you can't imagine like not having the fear or not having the anxiety or something.
I find it so funny when you have like a conversation, when you're in that kind of mindset where it does feel all encompassing, and then you maybe have a conversation with someone where after that conversation you almost just get this realization of, maybe it's not that serious, And that's such like a relieving feeling afterwards, isn't it?
100%. And I think that's why it's really important to make sure that you do like talk to your friends that suffer from that. Because the person I'm thinking of in my head right now, I remember thinking like, I've thought to myself like several times, like I know enough about them that knows that like their home environment, they come from like a good family, but they're quite like a negative family, and a lot of their like other closest friends, again, they're good people, but they're quite negative people, and I think unfortunately then it means that you're in this weird never-ending loop and cycle because you need someone that's not in that weird cycle of negativity or that negative way of thinking, that actually thinks that like life is good and that there's nothing to worry about. You need people like need to be around people like that. To think like, look, every day is a blessing.
Definitely.
Look, at the end of the day, of course there are issues. There's issues with everything in the universe. There's pros and cons to everything. With life comes death and all of that malarkey. But really, how amazing is the world? How amazing is everything? Think about the music you listen to. Think about your favorite movie. Think about just going out and smelling like some freaking lush flower. Think about, all the amazing things that you can experience in life. Even if it's just something simple like a dope piece of bread.
Oh, mate, they're the best things a lot of the time, aren't they?
Going to like
that sunshine when it's hitting you and you're sitting on the egg chair and just smelling the freshly cut grass.
Going on holiday and experiencing like some freaking lush local cuisine.
Oh,
swimming in a beautiful sea.
Yeah.
Just like observing like an amazing animal and just thinking, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't nature nuts? Yeah. Like all of these things, you need to be around people like that to make you go, yeah, actually, that's true. It's not all just doom and gloom, Whereas I think people can sometimes get really caught up in that cycle, and it's sad, isn't it?
It's funny how far optimism, just a splash of optimism, no matter where it's from, how far that can go.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I think it's like when you're surrounding yourself with people like that as well, it's an invitation to help you think in a different way or something. So if someone is stuck, but and then there's someone who isn't stuck, and they're just like say maybe inviting some jokes in, like you were saying about it's like, it's just an invitation to look differently, have a different belief in yourself, and then that will help you out of the situation and help you come to the side of the light.
100%, man, 100%. I was watching this really good video actually with this philosopher, and he was basically going on about how he changed his views on a lot of things back in the 60s, and he was saying that he went to a lot of demonstrations, and those demonstrations would often turn into riots and stuff like that, and he thought that what he was doing was right and good. But then he said that the more he got into philosophy, he's a really good philosophy professor nowadays, and he's a really elderly gentleman. As I said, I think he was like in his 20s already, in the 60s. But he basically said he came to the realization that he thought that he was a good and moral person by going to these demonstrations and these riots and stuff like that, because he felt like he was attacking something negative in society. But he said that the more he read philosophy and the more he understood politics and read up about all the different types of whether it's communism, capitalism, socialism, Marxism, all the different types of politics, all the different types of philosophies and stuff.
All the isms.
He said he realised that method of thinking in itself, attacking things that are negative in society,
fighting fire with fire,
is very negative. And he said, and what you see, and he researched a lot of history and stuff, as he realised, and it's really interesting because it's why I have all the beliefs I do as well, which is like mirrored, and I was really loving hearing it from this man who was obviously a lot more intelligent and wiser and a lot more experienced than myself. But I came to the same realisation myself when I was probably about 25. Because before that I was more more like he was describing he was like when he was young.
Yeah.
You know, about that whole like attacking negative things. He realized
that would exacerbate it.
Yeah, he looked back in history, and whenever you see, say, things like that happen in societies, where say that way of thinking will then overthrow, say, that government and rule, you would think what would happen is, okay, we've defeated the negative, so now we can live in harmony. But that's not what happens. What happens is the negativity still remains.
In a different form and shape.
but it's sort of aimless negativity. So there's always something to be negative about. So he said that, so he radically actually changed his beliefs, and he said, actually, I don't want to be part of a group of people that are rioting and doing all this stuff. He said, I want to be a part of a world where I'm not attacking negativity, I'm fighting for what I love. And that is a radical shift in mentality. And I think that is such a better way to think about life, you know. You don't attacking negativity, fight for what you love. You know, and he was like even using like the Nazis as an example, and I think that might a lot myself, you know, like a lot of the things, even in like right now in modern society, you know, that people think that they're fighting for what's good were the same things that people thought they were doing for good in the 30s in Germany that led to the rise of the Nazi Party. A lot of the things that the Nazis were sort of fighting for in the early days, you know, whether it's that whole sort of, you know, anti-capitalism, and also they were quite like bohemian.
Were they?
To be honest, yeah, they were quite bohemian. So you know, it would have seemed
about some crazy parties.
Yeah, but again, it's always rooted in negativity. It's always looking for someone to blame, looking for someone to attack.
Yeah,
and like you see so often today, we'll blame the Jews for this. We'll blame, you know, this country for that.
Finding a scapegoat.
Yeah, we'll find this country for that. We'll blame the Jews for this. We'll blame this type of system for this. You know, it's all about blame. It's all about negativity. It's never about
responsibility.
It's never about responsibility, appreciation, love. It's not about that. You know, so I think that's really interesting, and really something that we should all, I think, just as human beings, just really ponder. You know, and just
because those other things will always divide, but the things like the commonalities, like the love, those feelings that whatever group it is, you still have with them. They're commonalities that you can like kind of find common ground with, and that will more likely lead to just a nice situation rather than like violence or kind of anything that's going to be super negative.
And I think it's interesting because I think you know our close friendship group, Drew, are very much like this, which is a really nice thing. But like our close friendship group are a very positive group of people. So you would never really see us like being like negative online or anything like that, would you? Like, but our extended
that drives me nuts.
But our extended friendship group, even people that seem extremely hippy dippy, who I'm sure in their heads
are righteous.
They think they're being very righteous and they think they're being good. Really, if you think about everything they put online, it's extremely negative.
And it's just adding to the fire.
Yeah, it's passive aggressive. Sometimes
fighting fire with fire, but you must fight fire with water.
Or sometimes fighting like what with fire though? Do you know what I mean? You're like you're throwing fire at something.
Yeah.
But it's like, is there even fire there in the first place? Maybe there sometimes is, but sometimes there's not. Sometimes
fire.
there might be an ember, and then you're freaking pouring gasaline on it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, well, you could have just stepped on that or ignored it, and the ember would have gone out. Do you know what I mean? But it said there's lots of people I can think, and it's like, you know, they preach love and everything like that, but really, although it seems like that they think that that's what they're doing, everything they sprout is negative. It's all about f the whatever. Up this. If you don't believe this, then take yourself off my friendship group. You know, it's this way of thinking. So ugly and it's so negative. And then it's I think it's also no coincidence that it's often people like this that then it's the same sort of people that do suffer from things like anxiety or depression, and then they'll talk about that openly. And it's like, yeah, it's because you don't realise why. You haven't led yourselves to the root cause of it, but you're trapped in this overwhelming cycle of negativity. And I think if I was as negative as you, I'd feel like crap as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, but they're like, oh, I'm going to counselling and I'm doing this and everything because I've just been feeling rubbish again and that. And it's like, Yes, because, you know, your hair might be blue and you might be like a hippie and stuff, but you're actually really freaking negative and almost like a bit nasty, like, you know? Like, and it's really not a very good way to live.
Yeah.
It ties in a lot to like the book that I'm reading at the moment as well. I'm not sure if you've ever read this book, The Genealogy of Morals by Nietzsche.
No, but I'm a big fan of Nietzsche. I haven't read that book, but I'm a massive fan of Nietzsche. I've read a lot about him and a lot of his work. So.
It's a really interesting book. Hard to read. I went from like not reading at all, and I was like, no, I'm starting philosophy. I'm gonna read all the time, and then I started reading this book and was like, oh, this is
heavy,
difficult. But I've got through the first essay so far, and the whole book. Well, the first essay is essentially just about the fact that everyone wants to be moral, right? For the most part, not everyone, but most people believe what they're doing.
Not everybody, but
is correct.
A lot of people, by the time you're an adult, I think most people get to a certain age and you start pondering to yourself, like, what do I stand for? What do I think is right?
Yeah, so the question shouldn't necessarily be whether what you're doing is right or wrong. It should be whether the morals you're following are right or wrong, if that makes sense, because so many morals that we have in our society today still link to that cycle of negativity that you were talking about, and it's something which just breeds more negativity. That's what they speak about in this first essay, and I haven't got to the end of the book yet, but I imagine he's going to talk about sort of his thoughts and theories as to how you could maybe break out of that cycle, but I do believe a lot of it would just be through positivity.
And a lot of what obviously Nietzsche says as well, isn't it? It's about the fear of almost like crowds. You know how like
is Nietzsche the one that says about everything is to do with sex? Is that
no,
Nietzsche?
No, that's Freud. That's Sigmund Freud.
Right.
Yeah, that's quite different people with quite different views.
I don't know about Nietzsche really.
Nietzsche's sort of like he delves
Nietzsche
into
is much better than Freud.
Yeah. He delves into like nihilism,
in my opinion,
but looking at it from a positive aspect. Yeah. So looking at the way that, you know, a lot of people believe.
It's the whole like be a lion not a sheep thing, but in a way more intellectual, moral and sophisticated way, and about how like crowds can be dangerous. You know, how you should always think for yourself, you know, very much like that.
It feels very rewarding to be reading, definitely.
Nice. And empowering.
What you were saying about morals, like morals are like our beliefs, so it's like choosing your morals, choosing your beliefs and see how they affect your life, like, and if they're not affecting you in the right way, choose new morals or choose new beliefs,
for sure, and not just necessarily like supporting the stuff that maybe the people around you support, supporting what you believe is being passed on to you, but actually forming your own opinion of what morals to follow yourself.
That is super important.
And also don't be an absolutist. And I think you know, even Nietzsche himself would probably back up what I'm about to say. Like I don't just because I've decided that I like Nietzsche agree with everything that I've heard him write. I probably agree with, I'd say, about 80% of it, maybe 85% of it, maybe even 90% of it, you know? But I do respect him and I know enough to know that what he writes is worth reading. There's the odd thing I've maybe thought, I'm not 100% if I agree with that quote.
It's all just invitations, isn't it, to form your own beliefs.
But my point about saying that is, I think what a lot of people do is they attach themselves to something and then they're all in.
So it's like extremist.
It's extremist.
Extremist is always dangerous.
Yeah, it's extremist, it's absolutist. So it's like, okay, I absolutely now agree 100% with this. But it's like, well, how are you even an individual then?
I don't think you can ever be like that about anything in life, really.
It's like
it's a mystery.
As friends, we probably agree on about 90% of things. Sometimes we won't. And that's fine.
That's okay.
and that's fine. But it's not like, okay, well, to be friends, we have to agree on everything. Yeah. You know, it's like, and I think that's a really important thing to emphasize, and a really important thing I think for people themselves to think and ponder. It's not about finding an absolute answer, which is the key. It's about taking these different things in to better yourself.
As well.
To better yourself. That then you can use these things as things to help you be the best that you can be and to be the most valuable member of society. You know,
a valuable asset to your tribe.
Just not just like another person for some reason putting a brick through a window during a riot because, I don't know, that seems like the thing to do. It's like, well, is it really? Especially if that's like
because you're super angry about something.
And it's especially not if it's like someone that's just like some small time, you know, like one shop owner, you know what I mean? It's not like some big chain, you know, then that could be ruining someone's livelihood. Like, you're trying to tell me that's you know, somebody could have worked their whole entire life in crappy jobs just to afford that shop or something, you know? Just have it ruined in one night of anarchy with something that's not even related whatsoever to their little bookshop or something like that, or their little record shop or music shop or something that's randomly now a victim of arson or something. Or that person, you know, that you showed me, we were talking, weren't we, yesterday, and somebody had a little yoga business and victim of arson, and it was you said it seems like it's probably just some jealous person, but their whole
because they don't know, but the fire brigade and that said that they really do think it's arson. Like, it's very strange for it to just happen out in the garden, like, you know, this big, like, kind of, they used it as like a yoga studio and like a sound healing place, so they had all these like gongs and stuff and like bowls and that in there, and that was like kind of their business. But I don't know whether it was a neighbour that didn't like that they built that in the garden in this like estate. Do you know what I mean, or something like that? Who knows? That is just like speculation.
It's just a theory,
or it could be kids that have just like
set a fire nearby. And
like when I was driving in my car in Crockerton, and there's that bridge, and I went under the bridge, and someone just lobbed a stone on my my window, and I was going like 70, 75, 80 miles an hour, like dodgy, quite fast on like a dual carriageway. And it just smashed right, like, luckily didn't smash. But I just think, like, how it's so stupid. Like, but people, the things that people do. You
think about these things and you just think, like, what the hell was going through that person's head?
Yeah, that seems mental.
You know?
Yeah.
That is like another level of just random thoughtlessness and destruction. But you think, like, you know, what was it, like, not even just like what
that
was
starts making me start feeling extremist though, because I'm like, eradicate, destroy. I don't want that in society.
Yeah,
you know?
No. I think in the moment, I think it's sort of human to sometimes think that, but then I think obviously what you need to do is let calmer heads prevail. And I think that even though you would think that in the moment, you probably wouldn't act on it, which is what separates you from a less wise individual. Wise Drew. Just to radically switch this up and go to a much more like random fact. Which country in the world do you think eats the most pork? Like per population, you know, in compared to population size. It's a bit of a random
America
compared to population.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because obviously it wouldn't be fair to compare, say, like,
I know lots of like places
a tiny country compared to that's a silly guess, because if you think about it, whenever do you hear about a pork?
I was just thinking of gyros. Pork gyros.
Well, that's fair, but I think they're known a lot more for lamb, aren't they? Greek?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and a lot of places that like goat. Like goat is one of the most eaten meats in the world.
Africa.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realise that, but I think in a lot of countries that is just their main meat.
I've never had goat, but I'd like to try goat.
Yeah, no, Johnny has eaten a ridiculous amount of goat because he used to live in Uganda, and he said it's like he said that, like, some places that was all you could get was goat and chips.
And like
he said it was really nice.
Curries, like curried goat dishes.
He said goat and chips was really nice, but he said it's one of those things that, like, after a while you get fed up of it, because he'd go in like some like bar, you know, but he's just like, and, you know, you'd have like a drink, and then it's just like, you'd ask, you know, oh, do you serve food? You know, he'd be like, yes. What's on the menu? Goat and chips. That was like, but he said it was like amazing how often that would be the only thing. Like, it's everywhere to go. What's on the menu? Goat and chips. He's like, oh, not again. You know, like, just such a simple staple. But yeah, so Drew, did you?
I said like USA, like America.
I think that's a pretty good guess, because obviously we know that they have a lot of like pulled pork, and in the South, like barbecue.
Bacon.
You think about like
maple bacon.
Like, what was that one we used to go to all the time?
Beef jerky.
Spitfire.
Beef.
They're known for their big like slow cooked rib and stuff.
Mm.
But no, it's actually, and it's a bit of a random one. I wouldn't have ever expected you guys to get it. I certainly wouldn't have got it. Denmark.
Okay.
Yeah. According to the USDA Census of Agriculture, the top 5 pork consuming countries are Denmark number 1, Spain number 2.
Oh, Spain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then Hong Kong. That doesn't surprise me too much, because in Asian cuisine there's a lot of in like Oriental cuisine there's a lot of like pork dishes, isn't there? Yeah. 4th is Germany. Doesn't surprise me too much. So there's a lot of sausages, a lot of sausage and things like that.
Oh yeah,
sure. And 5th, Hungary. That's interesting, isn't it? There's another interesting food fact for you. Did you know that Joseph Spud Murphy was the man that produced the first flavoured crisps? And he did this. I thought crisps would have been an older thing, to be honest. I just never really gave it much thought. What decade do you think crisps were invented?
40s.
What do you reckon?
I'll go 30s.
Yeah, I would have thought it would have been even older than that, to be honest, if I had to guess. But no, it was as late as the 50s, which is mad, because I think that's something like a few years before my dad was born. That seems just like weird to me. Like, I think it's weird to think that
they knew he was coming.
During World War II, there wasn't a single person.
I was going to say, so during World War II, there's no crisps.
Yeah.
That's mental.
Yeah, it was invented in the United States by a man called Joseph Spud Murphy. Bless you, Drew.
Sorry.
He produced the first flavoured potato chip, as they obviously called it in America.
Potato chips.
In the late 50s. His cheese and onion crisps were an instant hit, and then shortly paved the way for his barbecue, Cool Ranch, and sour cream and onion flavours.
Oh, nice.
Interesting, isn't it?
Was he Mr. Pringle?
Mr. Pringle himself.
So his nickname was Spud. As I said, his name was Joseph Murphy. Murphy.
Crisps are such a dangerous thing, man. I was eating some crisps the other day because we were having a barbecue and they just got pulled out, and I was like, I'll try these. It was like a lamb and mint one. Oh, and man,
sensations.
it tasted exactly like it. And I was like, man, considering like how bad these are for people, the fact that it can taste so accurately like just lamb.
Apparently, it's funny you say that, because apparently the number one food that is that they consider responsible for obesity in America is literally potato chips.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Or crisps. As
it does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, because I didn't realise how bad like seed oils were for your body, really. Just like completely like everything's saturated in seed oils.
A lot of those
time.
oils used to be used for like mechanical mechanical purposes.
Jesus.
Yeah, they weren't even used as a food for like the first
oils.
50 years of their invention. They were used in like factories to like grease up machines and things like that. And then one day
people pumped in all the food. I've stopped having like oat milk and stuff now as well, because it's full of like rapeseed oil and that. That's what makes it go that nice consistency.
Man, a lot of plant-based stuff does. That's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, I looked in all of these
without trying to sound like
plant-based milks, and they've all got rapeseed oil.
That's one of the reasons, without trying to look like some sort of like smarmy douche. I like always like just chuckle to myself a little bit. When you come across like some say vegans, I think they're super healthy just because they don't eat meat, and I think, man, you are clueless about diet. You're eating you're taking in no good quality amino acids. You're taking in no B vitamins or anything like that. You're getting no calcium from actually proper dairy products.
Seed oils.
And you're taking in frickin' loads of seed oils and having like a lot of things which are like frickin' like one frickin' gene code away from being like plastic, essentially. And you're eating that stuff every single day.
Oh, mate, I had an amazing breakfast the other day, and it was a weird mix, but it was actually so good and like super high in protein, like scrambled eggs, but done with like full fat cottage cheese. So
I've never had that with cottage
mixed
cheese.
into the with like it's like full fat milk,
very healthy.
Yeah,
very good
cottage cheese and like scrambled egg with cut up parsley. And then like 3 tablespoons of whole hemp seeds, which is super high in protein as well. Like all over the top. Man, that was so good.
I'll tell you what, it's certainly a powerful combination of nutrients there as well. Because obviously through the cottage cheese, you would have got the primary...
That's high in protein as well, apparently, cottage cheese is.
Of course it is, mate. It's a dairy. The same reason why Greek yogurt would be, or why, milk would be. So the main protein in cottage cheese is casein. Which is like a slow digest protein, which like basically it's like, imagine it like almost like a drip feed, so it will like trickle into your protein over a long amount of time. It's considered one of the highest quality proteins on the planet. And then obviously you had eggs as well, which is another one of the highest quality proteins on the planet. I don't know if you guys saw, I put something up on
I was going to say on
the Pandoras Box in Instagram, just stories the other day. I shared some because I thought it was worth it, and it was basically going on about how a lot of people just think of eggs as like protein and fats, and obviously that's what they are, but on a much deeper level, if you have a look, one of the things I always call eggs, and I can't remember where I originally heard it, I heard it somewhere else, but I've then sort of like trying to spread the gospel, is eggs are like nature's multivitamin. They are like if you look at a list, it's like the list is like that of what good quality nutrients are in eggs. It's insane the amount. They've got a complete amino acid profile. The protein in it is the bioavailability of the protein in it is such a high level. They are just amazing. So yeah,
I suppose it's because
I've been having egg and
thing...
soldiers every morning.
Mate,
nice.
Great, man.
So good.
You can't go wrong
eggs.
with eggs, man. Eggs, you just can't go wrong.
Well, they're like the little mini lives, aren't they? Really, when you think of like and that
everything you need to develop a life.
Yeah, just all like wrapped up in a little thing. So
it's not like a mini life yet, but it's
the potential.
It could have been.
It's everything you need to grow a life form.
Yeah, exactly. That's
which, if you think about it, we are a life form, so it's giving us everything we need to replenish our life force.
Yeah,
So it's It's interesting, isn't it?
I've got a crisp fact for you.
Go on,
while
then,
we're
man.
on the terms of crisps. I saw this week. Did you know one of the reasons that it's such an addictive food is because people get addicted to the sound of the crunch?
Really?
That's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy with like textures
nice
and
sound.
stuff. Yeah.
That actually makes sense. Like, it is real satisfying.
Yeah.
And then you almost want to go for another one.
Yeah.
And part of that reason will be because of the fact everyone just likes that sound. That's crazy.
That's just made me think as well. I don't know why, but I get loads of enjoyment out of my daughter Evie. She loves it if we both have a glass of milk together before she goes to bed. And and I have to say I love it as well. I don't even really know why I love it, but it just sort of cracks me up. Our little thing is like every time we have a sip, we take a really exaggerated sip. We go, and then we go, and then we do the clink. But we both just do it until our entire thing is just gone. But there's something really fun for some reason about the process of the big gulp. And no, it's just reminding me what you're saying. It's like it's the oral aspect of it. Oral as in A-U-R-A-L, obviously, not the actual baby O-R-A-L aspect of it. It's the sound.
I bet that's linked. I guarantee.
Yeah, I bet
that's
it is.
It's because it just does make it like a more enjoyable
it's like
experience.
textures of food and things like that as well. Like Meg made this mousse the other day, and it was insane. And it was done with like silken tofu and like just raw chocolate, and she put all this stuff in it. But the actual texture, you know, like when you have like a ganache chocolate or something. Have you ever had one of those? And they're like I don't know how to describe them, but they're like silky smooth.
A bit moussey.
Yeah,
right?
like mousse, but just really thick and just silky smooth. Like you put it on your tongue, you're like, and just like almost play with it in your mouth for a bit before you swallow it. You know what I mean? It's just really, really like kind of like this nice texture and stuff like that. It just makes you want to eat more of it rather than just the taste and the thing. It's like or when you're eating like a real fried, like crunchy, crispy thing or something.
Man, I feel like that with watermelon.
Watermelon.
What a food. Every time I get like a big slice of watermelon, you take a bite and it's all crunchy, like it's just like soaking crunchy.
Especially this time of year when it's hot, because it's almost like a drink and like a food in one. It's great, isn't it, in that regard?
So good.
Another interesting fact for you guys now. Did you know that apparently, according to a study by the University of British Columbia, happiness is not considered sexy, which makes me a bit sad, which apparently is sexy. British Columbia, University of British Columbia asked men and women to rate their attraction to hundreds of images of the opposite sex in different emotional states. These states were shame, pride, happiness, and more.
Imagine shame one.
Just so attracted to shame. There's like something a bit like dirty going on there, man. Women were least attracted to smiling and happy men. Interesting. Least out of every emotion, they rated smiling, happy men as the least attractive. And I think it's important to notice as well.
No wonder I've had not much luck with girls.
Yeah, and I think it's important to notice as well that they weren't told beforehand, obviously, the purpose of the study. They were just simply asked to rate attractiveness and then shown different images.
And it was just,
So they weren't said, right.
Honest opinion.
Yeah. So, and it was really interesting that the men that women were least attracted to were smiling, happy men. They were most attracted to men that looked either proud or moody. So essentially almost like cocky or that, I guess that like...
a bit like charisma.
Either like this,
thing.
proud, or moody.
There you go. That was like moody with a slight hint of happy.
That's like you blend it a little bit. It's like, am I intrigued? Am I turned on or turned off? That's what a woman would think when looking at that. Yeah, moody. Okay, I'll try a bit more steely.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. But that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I have to say though, I don't like that fact.
No,
because I think that a smile on anybody, but I think on in this case, let's say a member of the opposite sex, right? Say there's an attractive person with a good person with a personality, with a nice personality, and if you see them with a beaming smile, to me that's very attractive. That's a very lovely quality. That's a very lovely thing to witness.
Yeah,
it sort of beams out of them. And you just are like, that's great.
Just thinking though, like I kind of understand in the when they say about like the sexy thing, because it's amazing when you walk down the street and you share a smile. It's not quite a thrum yet, but just like a smile. Yeah. And that's like a nice thing to share. But imagine if you were just in the act of making love and you looked down and you're there and you're like... Do you know what I mean? Like, when you're actually in the moment, it's a bit serious, isn't it? You're like...
I was going to tie in with that.
You're on a mission. Like, you're on a mission, you're like, oh, I'm enjoying the hell out of this, but I'm not like...
I know what you mean. Like if you are being intimate,
do you know what I mean?
And one of you smiles, it almost breaks the moment, and the other one you go like, "What?
Yeah,
what are you laughing at?"
Yeah,
and then it's
weird that I've never thought about it like that before.
There's a break in the moment, isn't there?
Yeah. It's not actually when you're in the act. It's not actually it, but before the act and all day, like this is beautiful to be like smiling and happy in that. But there's almost like a.
I guess it's that seriousness, isn't it? It's almost like you need to look at them in a serious way, and if someone is smiling and laughing, maybe that's not like. Well, it's not a serious thing, is it? That's almost taking life quite unseriously.
Mm.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think it probably goes deeper than obviously the findings of the study. But what I would theorize is that attraction at early stage, I would think that things like smiles would probably be very beneficial. Yeah. But in terms of building up to the act of actual sexual intercourse, that is suddenly when you don't want smiling to happen.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I didn't really think about it, but then when I thought in my head, I'm like, that would actually be pretty weird.
But do you know what I also think that shows you though? Because obviously this study was, just purely showed, rate attractiveness from the pictures. Just goes to show that we're actually very ape-like. I mean, we are obviously apes, but do you know what I mean? It's like, so people subconsciously were obviously looking at these people in a way of essentially like, how much do I want to have sex with them? Which I guess you could say that is all attraction is, but I think that it's obviously more complicated than that. You can be attracted to someone's personality and not necessarily want to have sex with that person.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know when you say that with women, do you reckon it's different with men then? Because I find it super attractive seeing like smiley women. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I made me think of like Angela Autumn then. Like,
I was thinking
do you know
about
what I mean?
Angela Autumn.
Really? Like, because we were just watching some music. We were watching some music videos.
And I love that.
Yeah, and like just these, when she was like singing that guy on the cello and then gave him a cheeky smile and that. It's like, I find that super attractive, like compared to... Like, I don't know, like than some like moody, serious kind of woman that was just like...
Yeah, if she was just like really like moody at the time, I'd be a bit like, she's a bit weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know, I think it's an intriguing one, man, and it's a really I wonder if it'd be the same.
I would be curious to know what the outcome would be of a flipped...
I mean, I think...
test.
It's interesting, but I remember hearing another thing before, and apparently the two types of men that I remember hearing that... women would gravitate to were, number one was men that were perceived as physically dangerous but safe. That was number one. The men that women most wanted to be around. And two were men that were funny. That was the second one. But it's interesting because
still hope.
Because if you think about it, the two are very, very different qualities, yet they were ranked 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Fascinating. Anyway, we've got to take a break a second, but we'll be right back, guys.
You will open Pandora's box many times in your life. No, we probably really shouldn't open that box. Look, I've got one rule. Here.
Open your mind. Open your mind.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you are listening on Das Radio, the last track was The Sisters of Mercy with Temple of Love. Yeah, chilling with us today. We were talking about findings on attraction, studies and meta-analyses on attraction, and how women rated happy-looking men, smiling men, as the least attractive on a study showing men that looked, a plethora of one of my favorite words, a plethora of emotions from, proud, moody, shameful, happy, and many more. And that happy men were rated the least attractive. Isn't that interesting?
But then the second most wanted to be around.
Yeah, I guess because like happiness, like comedy brings like funniness. Yeah. Comedy brings joy to people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's like
joy and attraction,
friend zone.
Different thing. Yeah,
that's like friend zone.
Mate, that was always my problem in school. I'd always just be friend zoned.
Yeah, I remember you used to say to me that you used to hate it. That like how many women that you'd be interested in would always say, Drew, you're cute.
Yeah.
And I remember you hated that word because everyone
I had a
would
friend that would
describe
get
it was cute. But I remember it would like almost be like, oh my God, it actually is an issue.
Everyone would find me real funny. But I almost took myself too seriously.
Yeah,
so I was like
interesting
funny, but then like would be like, why do people not like find me like attractive like that? Like, you know what I mean?
You definitely had a bit of a complex like that, I reckon. Yeah, you would try and overcompensate for that by then trying to act too serious, but it would add to the problem, man. It would definitely have to
make it funnier.
Because I remember sometimes, like, say we'd be at a party and you'd get a bit drunk and you'd turn a little bit and you'd be a bit. And then I remember sometimes there'd be times when Drew would turn at a party and he'd be like, and he would just run, we'd just be at everyone. He'd be like, why'd you all laugh at me? And we'd also be like, what are you on about, man? Like, it's you bring us joy. Like, we freaking, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's good. Like, we're not laughing at you. Like, you know, you're just funny. And you'd be like, so sick of everyone laughing. It'd be like really weird. It'd be really funny, man. But
mate.
We all have our weird moments, don't we, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just on the other thing on attraction as well. Sorry, I didn't know if you'd finished that one.
That's all right, go on.
But did you ever watch the one on the BBC about they took loads of women into like a gym situation and loads of different guys had like workouts, and then as soon as they finished the workout, they took their t-shirt off and put it in this thing of just all t-shirts.
Yes.
And then the women went out and they had to like rate the attraction that they felt to the smell and stuff like that, and how there was this biological like chemical process on different people's genetics.
That was very interesting.
That would literally, people would be more attracted to a certain type of smell of a man based on like the way their genetics. Yeah, There's the natural like genetics that they have.
Yeah, I know they did another one as well, another study where they got women to smell different t-shirts, and some of them were just brand new t-shirts off the shelf. Other ones that were t-shirts that had just come out of the washing machine. And other t-shirts were like from men that had just either competed in sports or worked out. And all women said that the t-shirts worn by men that had just worked out or finished playing sport smelled the best. Isn't that interesting? You'd think it would be the opposite.
Yeah.
But it shows that on some weird primal level, it's all to do with, we think of smells as just smells, but they're not. They're packed full of pheromones.
Packed full of information.
Yeah, they are. And apparently even will show how someone smells and the pheromones of a person is even an early indicator to an opposite member of the sex on both sides of how compatible you will be for mating and how compatible your offspring will be. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and that's what I thought.
Compatible you are to develop offspring. I mean,
yeah,
isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and just like the different attractions that people would have based on different smells, like how they look and stuff like that, like. That you will be drawn to some people more naturally than others. Yeah. You know? And that will be different for different women as well.
It's weird how that's interesting, isn't it? Like, I mean, they call it chemistry for a reason, but how to say you could find somebody just not interesting, and not like a bad way, but just, you know, you appreciate that person, you can see that they're an interesting individual, an intelligent individual, got skills, attractive, but they're just not to you. You literally, just to be honest, could just care less. You know, if you never saw that person again, you wouldn't like lose sleep over it. And then someone else that another person might think of in the same way to you is the frickin' bee's knees.
Yeah.
You love being around them. You
are
just that chemistry. You just, it's something to do with those pheromones or something. They are like this person, like to me, it's almost like that tribal thing. It's this person, I want this person in my tribe.
Yeah.
I want this person in my tribe, like just everything about them. And it's interesting that you never obviously would think that, like, say the way that someone could smell
would be a part of that.
Would be a part of that, or such an indicator of that. Fascinating. I remember hearing as well, and I can't remember, I don't know what's going on a deep level. And this sounds funny. It sounds like I'm making it up, but I swear I'm not. We can Google it just to prove to people. But I remember hearing that one of the best ways to calm down an anxious or worried woman is to get her to lick her partner's armpit sweat. There is something in the pheromones that a man will secrete from the armpit that will calm the woman down.
That's ridiculous.
Mental. Isn't that nuts? Just so I'll just see if there's anything on Google, just so people don't think I'm just completely making that up.
Mate, it's so mad as well because Meg really doesn't like the smell of my armpits.
Does she not?
Not when they're a bit.
Not when you're before.
Well, not when they're a bit Fausty, and I'm like,
yeah,
mate, that's not a very good indication. But I
feel
feel like we have a really good relationship.
You should be burying your nose.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Nuzzling in there. Armpit sweat Female anxiety. I'll put see what happens. Hopefully that's not too vague because I can't really bother to go and like look up loads.
Just gonna show you a bunch of female armpits now.
Yeah. It's just saying why does sweating does anxiety cause sweating, which is annoying. My
hands sweat a lot.
Your hands sweat a
Oh,
lot.
I get real sweaty palms.
I don't
Man, I do.
Only
It's
when
like
I
the
work
one
out.
thing that's like constant. Well, I remember when I
here's
remember
something.
doing like exams in school during GCSEs, and I don't even think I was that like stressed or anxious when I was doing exams, really. But I can remember after the test, just like having my hands on the desk,
Yeah.
and I lifted them up, and there's like a puddle underneath my hands just from how much they've been sweating.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I get sweaty hands, quite sweaty feet as well.
I only do when I work out, really, but not chronically, you know. I found an article, look, sniffing other people's sweat can help treat social anxiety, study suggests. Sniffing other people's body odour may be able to help treat social anxiety. According to a new research, armpit sweat was taken from volunteers who watched either happy or scary film clips, including Mr. Bean's Holiday, Sister Act and The Grudge. The samples were then used alongside more traditional mindfulness therapy to treat social anxiety. The study revealed mindfulness was more effective when combined with sniffing the body odour. The study involved 48 women who suffered from social anxiety, some of whom were exposed to clean air and others to body odour. Patients who completed a mindfulness session were exposed to body odours saw a 39% reduction in social anxiety, while those without the body odour, there was a 17% reduction. So
It's a funny thing to be able to
22%
calculate.
different. 22% difference. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I wonder how they calculate that.
Well,
Like
dunno.
the percentage of social anxiety you're feeling.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess
They
maybe
just put a mood ring on
Well,
them.
no, I reckon.
and then like see
I
what
reckon
colours
how
it
dark it
goes.
goes.
Yeah.
I reckon pretty simple. Probably they probably literally just asked them how they felt after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah, on
So
a
it's
level
on
of
1 to 10 or
yeah,
something.
and then
There was
turn that
probably
into
like
percentages.
there was probably like 20 questions, and they had
Yeah.
to answer every one, and then it all led up to like an average story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Got some more facts for you guys. This is again keeping on the sort of like crazy DNA theme, and it just goes to show that things we do in relationships have so much more deeper meaning than we realise on a biological level. Did you know that kissing isn't just a way to, you know, gradually initiate, in some cases, intercourse? Obviously, it's just a pleasurable act in itself.
Which is funny when you think about it, like touching mouths.
Yeah, but you're going to find out why now.
Oh,
Right?
baby.
This is interesting. I know you'd never think like, why do we kiss? But
Yeah.
this is I want to explain now why human beings even kiss in the first place. Kissing not only allows a partner to get a sense of their mate's hygiene habits, which is obviously very important. Nobody wants to kiss somebody that's got like cheese growing off their teeth. But also, it lets you sample their DNA. Studies have found that women can subconsciously pick up on whether a man's genes are matched to hers via swapping saliva, from swapping saliva during kissing. And often a woman subconsciously will know whether they will subconsciously either go off a man or want to pursue a relationship more based on how much based on how well the kissing goes. And it's not anything to do with how much of a good kisser the partner is. It's to do with the signals their bodies are feedbacking from the saliva. Isn't that
It's
fascinating?
like that Dua Lipa song, "One kiss is all it takes."
Or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And it says, in longer term partnerships, kissing continues to serve as an assessment tool for women who use it to evaluate the state of the relationship. If a guy fails the kiss tests, things can start to go downhill in a relationship. Also, during a kiss, men will pass along small amounts of testosterone in their saliva into the woman's mouth, which then primes the woman's interest in sexual intercourse. We obviously know that one of the biggest reasons why, well, the sole biggest reason why basically men's sex drive is higher than women is due to our increased testosterone. Testosterone, one of the things that testosterone does is make you want to have sex. Obviously, we've talked about testosterone a lot in the pod in the past. It's one of the reasons why obviously men are larger in general. This is a generalization. 90% of the time, men will be larger than women, stronger than women, hairier than women, uglier than women, and it's all to do with testosterone. It's the sole reason. It's the sole reason. But it also makes us essentially much hornier than women. So men isn't that weird that we don't know that we're doing this? It's not like something you're like, right, secrete the saliva into the woman, prime them for intercourse. But your body secretes...
exactly what I think.
Because obviously, when you're eating, usually, and you're using your saliva as essentially like a tool for you to like help break down food. Because obviously, if you've got a dry mouth, it's horrible chewing, isn't it?
It's got many uses.
So when that happens, your saliva doesn't secrete testosterone.
Oh, okay.
But when you're kissing a woman, your body will secrete the testosterone, which then the woman will ingest and will immediately, in a microdose, give them that testosterone that will then turn them on.
Hey.
Or make them more likely to
That's
become.
amazing.
Isn't that fantastic? Thank you, male
Don't
biology.
you just love the body?
Yeah, I found that fascinating, man.
Yeah, not surprising as well, because when you think of like how our body like heals and grows new cells and all that, it's unbelievable that it just happens, and we don't know about it consciously at all. But there's just these mechanisms that just like
chemical
keep
processes.
the world going round, man.
Yeah. Imagine that though, like. I'll tell you what, man. Some of these things that we talk about in Pandora's Box, why weren't we taught these fascinating stuff in school? Because some of the boring stuff we learn about in school, man. If Mr. Turner told me that in science, I'd have been like, "Reckon this is cool."
yeah.
I'd be like, "This is a cool fact." But like, yeah, you would never imagine in a million years, would you? Like, oh yeah, when I kiss my partner, I'm freaking squirting testosterone into their mouth,
passing on your libido.
Yeah. That's mad, isn't it?
Crazy.
Got some interesting facts about tugging the bishop here.
Oh.
Did you know that the word... this is hilarious. I never realised that the word masturbation was so comical. The word masturbation comes from the Latin roots of manus, which means hand, and stupere, which means to defile and dishonour. Such a shameful word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Such a shameful word.
Defile and dishonour.
So manus just means hand, and stupere means defile and dishonour. And yeah, it's Latin word, and obviously the modern version is masturbation. That is hilarious, isn't it? And then it goes on to say, just as an extra little fact, during the mid-1800s, doctor tried to cure hysteria in women by inducing orgasm. What sort of like weird kinky scientists tried this, man? Do you know what I mean? A range of cures were devised to manage what was perceived as emotion. I love how it was called emotional excess in women. That's just so funny. Look, oh my god, she's gone crazy again. This is emotionally excessive. Okay, but French physician Pierre Briquet hit on a particularly popular solution when he introduced clitoral titillation. As a way of calming hysteria. I bet it did. The doctor and patient would take part in therapeutic joint masturbation sessions, sometimes with a vibrator and other times manually. But the doctor would put a cover over his hand while he worked his magic so that it wasn't completely awkward. Imagine that. I'm going to try... It's time for the clitoral titillation therapy. But I'll just put my hand in a little blanket while I'm just like... But I love how like that was just like basically this guy just did this French physician Pierre Briquet just did this as like essentially a cure for emotional excess, which, let's face it, isn't a condition in itself. It's just that
and it's like, what would the husbands feel about this doctor? It's like, just
I'm off to see Dr. Pierre because I need some clitoral titillation for my emotional
I've never felt that before.
Excess. Okay, darling. Oh, that's crazy, isn't it? Did you know that extremely sensitive women can achieve orgasm through nipple stimulation alone?
Whoa, that's good going.
That is going, isn't it?
That is good going.
You'd have to be a master of
titillation.
I was just about to say that. A master of titillation. Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Can't people? There's a guy who claims he can do it by like breathing exercises. Like he teaches like woman breathing exercises.
I can imagine.
And they can achieve it through that.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Man, that's hard though, man. That's like, surely you'd have to like dedicate your life to that, man. I don't know if would you want to dedicate the amount of time it would take to reach that level of?
Just make that your party trick.
But that's.
I know that I can't speak for all women, but I know some women who
Meg?
Yeah. Sorry, Meg. That breathing is very important to the whole process. So it's funny what you say about that. Like, actually,
when Drew and Meg are making head calls, she's like this. just staring at him, breathing madly.
Smiling.
She's got these like weird techniques.
No, but it is. It's a important part of the process, you know.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm sort of intrigued, man. I have to record that. not the film, not the film, but just the sound. The sound of that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
And then we'll play it on the pod. Anyway. This isn't just an interesting fact. Did you know that West Virginia holds the distinction of being the deadliest state in the United States?
Whoa.
With 11.7 deaths per 1,000 people in 2009. What? Utah ranks the lowest with just 5.1 deaths per 1,000 people. That's interesting, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? Did you know, this is fascinating. This makes you realise how uneco frickin' cremation is. The amount of energy required to cremate just one body is the equivalent to driving 4,800 miles.
Whoa. That is crazy.
How far's that?
How far?
How far
Very
to drive
far.
4,800 miles? How far would that be?
Would it be
ridiculous.
like...
It's about 135
It'd
miles
probably
to
be
London
like up
from
and
here.
down the
Right.
UK twice or something.
More.
Yeah?
More.
Like what, from Land's End to Scotland and then back again?
More. Yeah.
Yeah, like three times or
Travelling
something?
the world.
I don't know how far it is, but mate, it's got to be much. I would say much more.
Yeah, I thought it was about 1,000 miles from top to bottom.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
so it would be that
1, 2,
4. So that'd
3,
be
4. Yeah.
But that thing that would almost be 5 times. It said 4,800 miles.
Oh yeah, crikey.
Do you want to
Mighty.
get cremated?
I don't know, really.
I don't like the idea of being put in the ground, really.
Yeah, but you'd be dead, so you wouldn't care.
Mm.
I also think it's the least selfish way, in a way, because I think we spend our lives basically ingesting dead organisms to sustain ourselves.
Yeah, how
Whether
can you
it's-
give it back?
Well, yeah, whether it's dead vegetation or dead animal
It's
product.
part of the cycle of life.
So, I think to almost rob the food chain, nature, of the right to then one day do that to me when I've expected every type of organism that I ingest to do that for me
They ain't gonna want to
all
eat
my
my
life.
mess.
I almost think there's almost something poetic and almost respectful about giving myself to nature. Like, look, my time has come. I'm going to be put in the ground. Look, the plants can use me as fertilizer. The insects can eat me.
That'd be cool, like
Then-
a proper eco grave. That was
You
just
can,
like
you can be
a-
made into a tree now.
And I think it is the circle.
Remember
of-
Josh was showing me that you can be put
Yeah.
into like a little pod and then you just, like a tree grows from your body.
Yeah.
That seems quite cool.
I think it is the circle of life as well, because say the insects that eat you in the ground, right, are then going to be eaten by the birds. The birds going to be eaten by the cats, and then the cat's going to die one day, and then they're going to go back into the ground, And as I said, it's just a fact that like plant life grows amazingly well, obviously above, that's anything that's dead or obviously anything that can fertilize. So all of that, your like life essence will seep into the soil, and like something beautiful could grow from that.
I know your ashes are really good as well to use as like fertilizer for plants
Really?
and stuff. So people like spread their ashes over like flowers and things, and it's good for the soil.
Nice, man.
But yeah, that takes up a lot of energy, doesn't it?
That's crazy,
Imagine
isn't
just
it?
because I don't know how hot the furnace has to be to turn your body into ash, but it's obviously
Yeah.
very, very, very hot.
Yeah, I wonder
But
what the
I'm
exact
wondering if
temperature
like
is,
you
yeah.
could just do that with like with wood or something, like because I know you can get furnaces like super hot with like wood like thousands of degrees.
Yeah.
So like yeah, it's crazy.
Interesting.
Electric one.
Yeah. I wonder if I expect it's about the same temperature as like a kiln, don't you
I'll
think?
search.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 degrees, maybe more than that. I don't know. It's hard to say. 'Cause it's weird, isn't it? Because you think like, say, when you turn your oven up to max, like I don't know, like 240 degrees or something, like that seems like freaking hot, man. But it has to be.
That's like a
But it would have
quarter.
to be a lot hotter than that when it's literally turning you into ash. But anyway,
1,800 degrees Fahrenheit.
there you go. That's hot. That's hot, baby.
Yeah.
So, did you know that the most carbon neutral way of disposing of your remains is a process called body liquefaction? There is a company called Resumation that are beginning to install alkaline hydrolysis units into funeral homes in Florida. Your body is submerged into a solution of both water and potassium hydroxide, which then dissolves body tissue, and then it's dumped into the municipal water system, while your bones are crushed in what's known as a cremulator.
cremulator.
The cremulator.
He's off to the cremulator.
So I guess basically it's like your organic tissue is like melted off your bones, and then your bones are like ground into
Where
dust.
does it go? It says into the municipal waste.
Municipal water system.
Water? What's that?
I don't know. Let's Google
Hopefully
it.
we don't drink it.
Can you Google the municipal water system?
Oh, I'm drinking granny juice.
I wouldn't even be surprised, man. It would be pretty crazy, wouldn't it? Just while you're looking that up, Bullwinkle, I'll tell you, did you know that I thought this was an interesting fact. The largest office building in the world is the Boeing Everett factory in Everett, Washington, measuring in at 4.3 million square feet. The office has an airplane assembly building that builds Boeing 747s, 767s, 777s, and the new 787 Dreamliner all within the building.
Wow, that's crazy.
That must be a freaking colossal building.
Big old building.
It's a big old building, man.
That'd have to be on the outskirts of the city.
Yeah, man. Have you Googled municipal water system?
Yeah.
What does it say?
I think that some goes to houses and some go to just like what is called I had it up 1 second. A disposal system. So the waste goes to a disposal system, and I believe that some of it will go to actually houses in the distribution system where it goes to houses and stuff.
That's interesting.
Crazy, man. So
I got a question for you guys. See what you guys think. What do you think is the most dangerous job?
Dangerous job.
Yeah.
Fireman.
I like one of those people that fix like electric like pylons.
No.
Something like that.
Actually, it's a surprising one. Fishing is the most dangerous job. Being a fisherman. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, the fishing industry has the highest fatal work injury rate, with 116 fatalities per 100,000 workers. This is followed by logging workers, who have 91.9 fatalities per 100,000 workers. Aircraft pilots and flight engineers come in third at 70.6 fatalities to every 100,000 workers.
Air pilots.
Aircraft pilots and flight engineers. And in
It's not as safe as you think, guys.
in fourth is farmers and ranchers, which have 41.4 fatalities. Or gored by a bull. So 41.4 fatalities to every 100,000 worker. Another interesting statistic was that 92% of workplace fatalities are male. So only 8% of that is women. I think that probably is because of the sort of jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of them. I mean, obviously, like, women can do any job they want, but I just think, let's face it, it's more like all of those jobs are quite like the sort of jobs that men are just more interested in, more likely to go into. On the whole, as I said, this is a generalization, obviously. In general, I'm sure there are some kick-ass female fishermen out there and
ranchers,
loggers and ranchers and you know what I mean? But in general, I think it's the sort of thing like men would rather get into that sort of work.
Do you think that fishing would have been a more safe job back in the day, or do you think it would have been more dangerous? Because on one hand, you don't have the technology to actually deal with the weather, whereas on the other hand, I imagine a lot of those deaths maybe actually come from the technology itself that they're using.
I think it still would have probably been more dangerous back in the day. Just my opinion. I just think, back in the
day,
day,
you get caught in like a storm,
like
a little rowboat or something.
Fishing was like a massive part of all of our sort of ancestors' lives back in the past. And let's face it, if you're on this freaking wooden boat, it's not this massive metal boat we have.
I still can't believe the Vikings, man. How like when it says it's about some of the storms and things and just what they were like, that must have been insane to go through that.
Oh yeah, dude, exactly.
Crazy.
Man. I think about how dangerous that must have been. Like you're out there fishing and also it's not just like the sailing, is it? Fishing's next level because having all those nets overboard, I mean, you're much more likely as you're leaning over to like fall overboard and all these things. You might get tangled in a net or something, and then your co-workers can't get you out in time or whatever.
Seems like a pretty miserable job. You can see why people would have been singing, old sea shanties and stuff to try and keep the positivity up a bit.
Yeah, I've never been super attracted to the sea like that. Like my dad loved being in the Navy and being on ships, and he loves fishing and going out on that. And I'm just like, I remember the first ship fishing trip I went out on a small little boat, but big enough so that you got about 20 people on there still, and they had a chopping board on the middle, like where they would chop the fish once you get it in and everything. I just literally was like rolled in this like sleeping bag, lying on the middle of that, like nearly puking the whole time, you know, just like so seasick and that. And it's just like, yeah, it doesn't suit me. I'm a land.
You're a forest
land lubber.
A forest dweller. Yeah, this is interesting. Do you know that bumblebees are considered one of the smartest insects in the world? Bumblebees are able to perform complex calculations to find the shortest routes from one flower to the next. They do this to save hours a day in navigation.
I like that.
As the bee flies.
Yeah. Urban farmers, beware. When bees can't find nectar, they are perfectly happy to settle for high fructose corn syrup. Beekeepers have reported their bees turning a bright red colour after visits to nearby maraschino cherry factories. So that's interesting, isn't it?
That's cool.
So they sometimes will just drink up all this fluid if they can get their hands on it. Did you know that more people die from bee stings every year in the West than they do from snake or spider bites? It's funny, isn't it? Just because I think, and they are, but we think of bees as like benign creatures, and we almost like, it's tempting to think of like spiders and snakes as like
evil,
malicious creatures. Do you know what I mean? Like they're almost a bit out to get you, whereas like bees are our friends. But I guess, yeah, it's just interesting, isn't it? It's just interesting that much more people get like literally killed from bees than snakes or spiders.
That must be from like bad reactions and stuff to the bee stings potentially, or do you mean like literally just swarms of bees? Like
I don't know. I mean, obviously,
I assume it would be like allergic reactions.
Well, obviously, it'd be a mixture of both. I think obviously in some extreme circumstances, people could get swarmed by bees if the bees thought that you were a big enough threat to the hive. But also, I think it is fairly common to have an allergic reaction to a bee sting, isn't it? This is pretty cool. Well, not for frogs, and I actually really like frogs. But it says, while frogs often make a snack out of beetles, one species of beetle flips the food chain. The Epomus ground beetle attacks frogs, toads, and newts, paralysing its victims with an incision to their back and then devouring them from the legs up.
Oh, that sounds like the
in
moose
total,
story.
In total, it takes them a couple of hours to completely devour the frog or toad. That's mad, isn't it?
So it stops them by making an incision on their back.
Yeah, it paralyzes the frog by making an incision in their back.
That's crazy. So not even any venom or anything to like paralyze them. It's literally just a strategical cut in the back.
Yeah, that's their pincers.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it? Oh. That is pretty crazy. This is a cool fact. Pretty mental. I never realised how full of machismo crickets were. But did you know that crickets have the biggest balls of any species? Obviously specific to relative to their size. Yeah, that's crazy. Isn't it? Their testicles account for 14% of their body mass. Their testicles account for 14% of their body mass. Since the average man in the West weighs 190 pounds, that would be the equivalent of having 26.6 pound testicles.
Oh, damn.
Or balls that weigh 12.5 kilos. Can you imagine balls weighing...
Like a medicine ball.
Medicine balls.
Pick up like a 12.5 kilo object, whether it's a dumbbell or a medicine ball, anything like that. And then imagine that was how heavy your balls were.
Mate, I watched this crazy thing once where this guy had this like swelling in his balls, but it was so much and they got so big that he would literally sit on his balls. And like as a seat.
Like a beanbag.
I swear I saw something recently.
I saw that years ago.
Around,
yeah,
and his balls were just like swinging.
Yeah.
It looked mental.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So weird.
He was a really fat guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was
he really fat?
I can't remember now, but I remember him sitting on him anyway. As a seat.
That's weird, isn't it? What do you think is the worst sting in the animal kingdom? Do you guys know the answer to this one?
I'd say a box jellyfish.
Stingray.
No. To be honest, this might just be... I don't know if it's including things like jellyfish.
Right.
It might just be insect. What do you reckon out of insects?
No idea, man.
I'll just say a bullet ant, although I don't think it is that.
Scorpion sting.
Yeah, you're right. It's bullet ant.
Oh, bullet ant.
Wow.
Nice.
The bullet ant inflicts the most painful sting in the world. The throbbing, burning waves of pain from its paralysing venom last for longer than 24 hours.
Have you guys seen that video?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't.
In Africa, there's this tribe.
That
they put like part of their sort of inauguration, initiation into their tribe. Is it Brazil?
Yeah.
They get like these gloves and they put how many is it? Like hundreds? Do you reckon of bullet ants?
It's the Satare Maui people in Brazil use the stings of bullet ants in warrior initiation rituals. The young men must wear a glove filled with the nasty insects for 10 minutes. This often causes temporary paralysis in the hands and uncontrollable shaking for days. But after that, it basically says after that, it takes a lot to scare them. And that's why it's like the warrior initiation process. Because once you've been through
Imagine your hands, the palm of your hands getting stung.
Literally,
there's like hundreds of them all riled up stinging you. And then they make you like dance and stuff in a circle.
And it says it can literally paralyze you and cause you to have like uncontrollable shakes for days.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
For days.
Mental.
That would be so brutal, man.
No, thank you.
There's a guy who
there's
a guy on YouTube who just his whole like YouTube thing is that he just gets stung by all the like worst stinging things in the world. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's really interesting, actually.
Yeah,
he'll go and find like
interesting.
What's it called, like the something hawk trap.
I'd hate that job.
Like like different spiders, different
just to try them out.
All the worst wasp species. Wasps.
Does any of them make them trip?
I'm sure he probably has.
Sort of, yeah, but he's on the floor and he's like, but he does look like he's tripping. He's like in pain, but tripping.
Yeah.
So like, and he's like sweating and he goes all red and he's like, it's interesting. It's really worth watching. It's fascinating. Yeah, he finds out, I said, all the worst sort of like wasps and bullet ants and just anything basically that can inject either, venom or poison.
It is crazy when I think like when I had Cambo and that's like the frog venom.
Frog,
but that is literally like you kind of you feel it going through your system and from your toes all up your arms and it makes your neck get a bit swollen, like your body just.
Mate, I'll never forget how funny it was
out.
when I picked you up and you didn't even realise that you looked freaking nuts.
Yeah.
I picked Drew up to we were going to a gig in Glastonbury. And it was like the day you'd been to Bristol, weren't you, to go to this like
partake in my Cambo ceremony of the Cambo.
And it was
frog.
like really funny. It was almost like the lack of self-awareness you had that was what made it comical. But you just got in the car and I didn't know you'd been to the singing. You were just like, all right, man. And I just looked at you and I was like, man, what is up? And you were like, what? And I just looked at Drew and his eyes. He looked like he'd been stung by like freaking like loads of like wasps or bees on the head. His eyes were like puffed up to the point where it was like you could barely see. And then you pulled down the little thing in my car and you're like, oh yeah, oh man, yeah, I've been to the thing in Bristol.
In Cambo ceremony.
You just looked like mental at first. So I was like, what the hell is wrong, man?
That's hilarious.
But it went down pretty quick.
Reaction. Yeah,
it went down pretty quick. I remember by the time we were like, because we had some food, didn't we, before we went and watched that gig, and it was.
I just needed a bit of food.
Yeah, you were fine by the time we went to the gig, but
yeah,
went and had a couple of glasses of wine and watched some lush fake music in the church.
So good. So good, Catherine Blake,
and then I can't remember the other girl's name, but she was really good. And
yeah,
they had some
violinist.
Amazing.
Yeah,
but she also sang, didn't she?
Yeah,
I remember she sang. She had a nice voice.
Beautiful.
But, yeah, I'll tell you one thing just to finish off on a weird note. Have you guys ever heard of the Gary Sudbrink phone calls?
No.
It was my mum that told me to look this up. Shout out my mum. But you can listen to them online. I'll see if I can find the audio that's like not attached to anybody's like sort of YouTube channel.
Gary Sudbrink.
But it was this guy in 1993 who for 2 nights in a row got these freaking weird as hell telephone calls. But it's weird. It goes deeper than that. Just to set the background, I think he was in the Navy. Gary Sudbrink was in the Navy. And I think he was stationed in Texas, but he went back to New York, which is where he was from, to be with his family for a week or two. What was really strange was that a friend of Gary Sudbrink's said that a couple of days before Gary Sudbrink got these weird phone calls, they said that they had a conversation with Gary Sudbrink on the phone, and that they just had like a normal 10-minute conversation like you would do with your friend on the phone. But Gary Sudbrink said that this conversation never happened. Gary Sudbrink never rang his friend and had a conversation with him. And he said it like, at the time he was like busy traveling back from like, being stationed in Texas in the Navy to his parents. He wasn't like ringing anybody. So he didn't ring this person. Another thing, just to set the backdrop, was there's another weird case, and I really don't want to make of this, but it's a fascinating story, and it's a fascinating story because it's just one of those ones, like a lot of things we talk about on the pod. It just makes you think, what the hell was going on with Gary Sudbrink and this whole situation and these other situations, like what was going on with his friend that said they had a normal 10-minute conversation with Gary Sudbrink, but Gary Sudbrink said that conversation never happened. Also, years and years before that, Gary had two brothers. I remember that one of them was called Brian. I think the other one was called Stephen. Stephen and Brian were on their way to a wedding, and Gary wasn't going to the wedding. But they said that while they were on their way to the wedding, they were driving in a very sort of rural part of America, and they're driving down these roads where it's just like big trees either side, and it just goes on for miles. They're going to this wedding. And then they said that Gary pulled up alongside them in a car they'd never seen before, and was driving alongside them. You know, like when someone goes to overtake, but they're almost like being a bit of like a KNOB. And was like driving fast, and then he looked over and he was like looking at them, but had this really menacing smile on his face, and they were like thinking like, why is Gary being such a tool? And then he was like looking at them really menacingly, and then like sped off into the night. Yet again, they said it was a car. It wasn't Gary's car. They had no idea where he got the car from.
When he was really recognised it as him.
Yeah. When they quizzed him about it later, he was like, "What the hell are you on about? I wasn't going to the wedding, so why would I drive?" And obviously I wasn't in that car, and he had alibis to confirm that he was at home. Anyway, this leads on to these weird telephone calls. So in 1993, he was at his parents' house, and he got a call late at night from this freaking weird mechanical voice, right, asking if Gary Sudbrink was there. And then when he said that he was, it was weird. There was 3 phone calls over the course of 2 days. Or it might have been 4. And what was really weird, it was like there was a lot of similarities. Each phone call lasted about 3 minutes, 40 seconds, which just seems like oddly similar. They were very robotic and like sort of monotonous conversations. But the conversations would always ask if Gary Sudbrink was there, and then it would tell him to look to the skies, and it was saying, beware. It was saying something like, beware the government, and then it was also saying something like, there's a copy of you, or something, there's a copy of you, and stuff like that. And he was asking questions about it, and the dad, like Gary Sudbrink's dad, like picked up the other phone, and they were asking the questions. And then yes, there's another thing about it as well. Gary Sudbrink's dad started asking him if he had anything to do with a UFO experience that Gary Sudbrink's father and uncle had both experienced about 5 years prior to that. And for some reason, Gary Sudbrink's dad said he just had this feeling that it was somehow connected. They had this really mental UFO experience in like 1987 or something like that, or 1988. And it was sort of like, but it was weird. What the clips? It's like someone's recorded questions into a machine and altered the voice and then played them. And it could very well likely, obviously, just be like a prank or a hoax. But what was interesting is they tried to trace the number, and it was untraceable.
Man, this seems like a lot of effort for like early 90s as well, doesn't it? To go to all of that. It's not like nowadays where you could do that quite easily.
And the fact that it happened like a week after Gary Sudbrink's friends said that they had that conversation with Gary, and then he said that like he just never had that conversation. And when you mix it in with the experience that their brothers had as well, it's just a weird case. Yeah. Let me see if I can find some of the clips of the actual audio.
Man, the idea that there's like a copy of him in his own home as well.
Doppelganger, that's what they call it. Yeah. A doppelganger. Gary
that's horrible.
Sudbrink phone audio. It's really weird, guys. I listened to it the other night on my own, and it was like real late at night, and I had all the lights off in my living room. And it's one of those things that like when you're listening to it like on your own real late at night, because of the way that the person sounds on the phone as well, it was like a bit creepy. I
wonder how they recorded it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that seems a bit early for like getting actual recordings of it and stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless they got it from the telephone company.
In America, they would often have tape cassettes.
Oh yeah,
so that you could record into a tape. It was something that never really picked up in the UK for some reason. I'm going to play this one. This is from someone's channel, so hopefully that won't affect anything. But I'll try and just get to the bit where it's just the phone calls. Let's have a look.
If time skips, ladies and gents, then you know what happened.
Yeah. Right. So listen, cool one. Let's just. Luckily, this person's put timestamp. So.
Yes. I'll tell you who it is.
Hello?
Yeah. Do you want to speak to him?
Is Gary Sudbrink there?
Yeah, who's this? Steven? Are you playing games with me or what? Huh? Steven, if you're playing games, I'm going to kick your ass.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
Huh?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Yeah, this is you, Steven, you idiot. You're pissing me off. Jerk. I'm going to get you on... Let's see what it says. Review. One new call out of area. Is Steven out of the area?
Are you going to be back from Texas?
Wait, say that again?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Wait, hold on. Is Steven out of the calling area or what?
Oh, I know.
What do you mean you don't know? He's in Queens. Well, who are you talking? I don't know who the fuck.
Hello?
Hello?
Is Gary's Sudbrink in there?
Who is this? Sounds like a freaking robot.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
What was that again, sir?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Oh, be quiet, Alpha. Sorry, would you see that again? Hello? Being impersonated by what voice?
Hello?
Yeah. Hello?
Is Gary's Sudbrink in there?
Yeah, hold on a second.
So that's what it was saying.
Yeah, what is your question? I'll answer it.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
How long?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Right. When am I coming back? Is that your question?
I was thinking, like, Gary's been real patient. Like, I think most people just hang up.
That's the bit that I
Okay,
almost found a bit
hold
weird,
on.
is that it almost seems a
You
bit
wanna know
voice
when I'm
active
coming
with
back
how
to
calm he
Texas?
is, you know?
I don't know, I think it just depends on the individual. Maybe.
Oh, is that your question?
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
If you do just keep putting the phone down, you
How
ring
long
the
am I
risk that
going
they
to be
might just ring
from
back.
Texas? That question doesn't make any sense.
By the other voice.
Okay. I'll be coming back eventually. I can't tell you when. You should know that question, the answer to the questions, because you seem to know more about me than I do. You know what I'm saying?
Are you an intergalactic person?
Are you a space alien?
Sounds like he hung up.
So this is the other one.
Can I answer any questions
So
for
they
you?
rang back again.
So this is a different phone call now.
Yeah, so they rang back again.
Mhm.
Yes, speaking. Yes.
It's really, like, menacing, isn't it?
Can I answer any questions for you?
Apparently it was like 8 minutes after the first phone call on the same night.
Oh, exactly.
It was late at night as well, apparently, which was made it quite
Oh,
freaky.
not back yet, no.
Obviously not, because he's on that phone.
How long are you going to be back from Texas?
Oh, man, why does it look slower
Let
than
me
the first
answer-
time?
First, you tell me, where are you calling from?
This is Gary Sudbrink.
Yeah, why don't you tell me where you're calling from?
Who is this?
Gary
What do you
Sudbrink.
mean, who is this? You should know who it is.
That would be like almost like a
Gary.
bit frustrating, wouldn't it?
It is like pre-recorded,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's
that just
definitely
keep going.
pre-recorded, yeah.
They sound exactly the same, each one.
They do start saying different stuff. But,
Do they?
Wait,
Yeah.
let me ask you this question. Where are you calling from? Okay, I'll be back. Excuse me?
Keep an eye on the skies. Near Orion.
Ominous,
I can't hear
man.
too well.
Sketchy.
Yeah, it is a full moon out. That's true. Could you identify yourself?
This is Gary Sudbrink. So then there was a final one.
Identify
I'll just
yourself.
fast forward it a bit.
Was roughly the same as the first, and it shared many of the same characters later. The phone
Yeah, it's taking time for him to talk. Who is this?
So yeah, there's another one.
Okay, please speak.
And then there was a final one the next
Would
day.
not occur.
Sounds
Yes,
like
this is me. Can I speak to you?
Can I speak to your advisor?
Can I ask why you're... Yes, can I ask why you're calling? Can I please ask? Yes, this is. Yes, that is me.
It'd be very frustrating if you were Gary Sudbrink.
Yeah.
We come.
Say that again?
Can you imagine getting a phone call like that at like 11:30?
When we say we're coming to your planet.
Yeah,
we come to
we're
be
coming
within
to-
this planet.
Can you imagine getting a random phone call from like that at like 11 at night? You'd be like, what the hell?
I'm staying right here.
To be
Is
within
this a joke or what?
Sounds like Kane in WWF when he first came out in 1998.
Yeah.
I will burn the Undertaker.
Is that laughing? Is it laughing?
No, it's like
Whirring.
it's like a weird like whirring sound.
To visit the many. To be contacted. As the same with you. Okay.
What
Who's calling?
I have to think about that.
That weird sound.
I'd like to see you.
With you.
Hey, let me tell you something. I've been listening to you,
That's Gary's dad, I think.
Yeah.
and I've had contacts with you.
Government interference? You have? Please explain what type of interference. Okay.
Visitations to be disrupted by them. Appears. Sun will rise from dark side of
Apparently, as well. Apparently, 2 weeks after that, there was after this happened, there was a solar event where the sun did shine on the dark side of the moon.
The sun will rise from the dark side.
Yeah,
of the
isn't that
moon.
mad? Well, it might have been a week after it, a week or two.
Okay, what branch of the government?
The alien's not going to know that, is he? Show double of you. I just think the thing that makes it weird was that the whole thing with his friend saying he got a phone call from Gary, and then his brother said about what happened these years
And
before.
why they're connected.
What should I do?
Yeah. And the fact that his dad and uncle had this weird, like, close encounter
Yeah.
experience. It's proper tinfoil hat stuff, but it's interesting.
government interference.
And it was weird that it happened for just 2 nights, and then never heard anything of it again.
To be disrupted by them.
Okay. Is that good for me or bad?
Yeah, that's one thing I want to know.
Yeah.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You are
man.
being
But
impersonated.
I thought it was interesting that literally apparently like a week or two after that there actually was a freaking event in the solar system, and
Yeah,
and the sun did shine on the dark side of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird, isn't it?
You are being impersonated.
This is Gary Sudbrink.
Beware government interference.
Anyway, I think we'll leave it on that groundbreaker.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So we'll leave you
man.
on that was a proper
That was cool.
tin foil hat like little thing there. But I thought that was interesting, and I said I would have just if it was just the phone calls alone, it wouldn't have intrigued me. But the fact that weird phone call, as I said, with Gary Sudbrink's friend, and then the Gary Sudbrink's brother saying that years before randomly their brother pulled up beside them in the car and then like sped off. but he just actually didn't do that. And then I don't know. There's several things about it.
It's a peculiar case.
Several things about it which just make you think.
Strange.
But anyway, folks, we've come to the end of another Pandora's Box. Thanks for tuning with us again today. We love you.
Oh, yeah.
Whichever platform you're listening to us on, remember you can catch us on Instagram, Facebook.
We'd love to hear from you.
Spotify, YouTube,
TikTok.
and Deal Radio and AW Radio and TikTok. So we appreciate all of yous. And we'll see you next time. Cheers. Have a great week, everyone.
Goodbye.